The military sent into Greater Manchester and Lancashire to contain the latest COVID outbreak.
Lunchtime News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Good afternoon. Surge testing, extra vaccines and even members of the military are being urgently sent to Greater Manchester and Lancashire this lunchtime. The Health Secretary announced the move as the government seeks to control a rise in coronavirus cases. It's driven by a spread of the Delta variant, which first originated in India. Our political correspondent Carl Dinnan has the details. Well, Hannah Miller is our political correspondent for the northwest of England. Hannah, thanks for joining us. So just how serious is it in Lancashire and Greater Manchester?
Well, when you look at everywhere else in Greater Manchester, they are now going up. Now,
the update. The family of Sarah Everard was in court today to hear her killer admit what he'd done when the judge asked PC Wayne Cousins whether he'd kidnapped and raped the 33-year-old. He replied with the words, "Guilty, sir." The Old Bailey was also told he accepted responsibility for her death, with medical reports now being compiled on the former police officer. It brings some answers to a case that brought forward serious questions about women's safety. Romilly Weeks has the latest. A second England cricketer is being investigated over offensive social media posts. It follows the suspension of Ollie Robinson, who has apologised for his tweets that he posted as a teenager. This time the player hasn't been identified as he was under 16 at the time he wrote the messages. Well, Stacey Foster is at edge. A British woman is in a serious condition in hospital after reportedly being attacked by a crocodile in Mexico. NHS and social care staff are facing emergency levels of burnout, according to a new report. The Parliamentary Health and Social Care Committee said staff shortages were at a critical level in both sectors. Their inquiry also is chaired by the former Health Secretary, Jeremy Hunt. Well, joining us now is Professor Dame Anne-Marie Rafferty, President of the Royal College of Nursing. Thank you so much for talking to us this lunchtime. We hear about burnout with the NHS, don't we? We've talked a lot about it in the past year, but this report is particularly damning, isn't it? And it points to unacceptable pressure. I mean, just give us a sense of just how bad it is at the moment. You know, they do recognise that the kind of pressure that staff have been under, particularly in the last year. There are mental health hubs, there are helplines, there's some extra money that councils have been given to help with social care. But what do you think that needs to be happen? I mean, you gave us a few examples there, but this is a long-term problem that needs addressing with a long-term plan. Still to come. But first, almost 1,000 suspected criminals have been arrested in raids around the world following a huge FBI sting. Decoy phones were given to gangs that were then monitored by police. It meant they could follow plots as they were being planned. And as Sally Biddulph explains, it's caught out people from Australia to the UK and beyond. Next, how online scammers used a favourite comedian to carry out a very unfunny fraud. The con involved the stand-up comic and actor Chrissy Rock, who you might just recognise as Janie from ITV's Benidorm. Well, it's now emerged that scammers used her image to book venues and then sell tickets for shows she knew nothing about. So I'm very pleased to say that Chrissy joins us now. Chrissy, thanks so much for talking to us about this. I mean, tell us more about what happened and how exactly did you find out?
Well, actually,
they used your image. They basically contact venues to say that you were putting on a show there, and they sold tickets. And the thing is, it looked legitimate, and so many of your fans bought tickets, didn't they? Watching it back home, we know that these online scams, these frauds, they've just skyrocketed during the pandemic, and lots of vulnerable people, at home. Yeah, just tell us about what should people be looking out for? What are the clues that it's not quite right? A huge outage has affected a number of major websites, including Amazon, the UK government web. Now, with the Euros just days away, the anticipation is building. Maybe, just maybe, this could be the year for one of the home nations. England have high hopes. Their current boss, Gareth Southgate, has said anything less than reaching the semi-finals would be a disappointment. Well, let's speak to one of his predecessors, Sven-Göran Eriksson, to see what he thinks. Sven, thank you so much for joining us this lunchtime. First question, very important one. What do you make of England's chances at this year's Euros? When they do come out to play, and I think their first match is against Croatia this Sunday, we know that England players will be taking the knee. We know that Gareth Southgate is completely backing this action. It's going to be a very different tournament this year. There's going to be reduced crowd capacity. You know a thing or two about having to communicate with your team from the sidelines, don't you? Is that actually going to be a bit of a benefit this year? Less crowd noise, less distractions? Sure, you like this, but I'd like you to try and give me an answer if you can. That crucial first match against Croatia, can you give me a predicted scoreline, please, and who's going to score? We'll be watching on Sunday. That is it this lunchtime. Mary is here with the ITV Evening News at 6:30. The news where you are follows the national weather. But from everyone here, bye-bye. Hello again. Now the main stories in London. As you may have been hearing, a police officer has accepted responsibility for killing Sarah Everard. 2 men have been sentenced to life in prison for the murder of an entirely innocent man. The UK's largest teachers' union has described the management of a Westminster academy as chaotic as staff walked out on strike today. A Tory MP has been fined after his puppy caused a stampede when he chased a herd of deer in Richmond Park. A statue of women's rights activist Emily Davison has been unveiled in Epsom this morning. All right, weather now, here's Sally. Time for a quick look at what's coming up at 6. That is it for now. Charlene is back here at 6. Until then, enjoy your afternoon. Bye-bye.